Okay, it's recording. I'm Katarina, and this is Tori, who's being forced to join me on this podcast. Welcome.
Hi.
She's very upset right now about participating in this, but I'm kind of okay with that. So we're going to roll with it. This is the first podcast, so the quality is probably less amazing than it will be in the future, and that's okay. But sometimes you just have to do the thing. Like the saying, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time was today. We're planting a tree today. That's what we're doing with this recording that Tori's really upset about. But it's kind of fitting that she's upset and that she doesn't want to be doing the recording, because the thing that I had on my mind to talk about was this quote by Anthony de Mello, where the student asks the master, "What is the secret to your serenity?" And the master says, "Wholehearted cooperation with the inevitable." And that, I heard it for the first time maybe a week or two ago. I had never heard that before, that quote, and it struck me really hard, because I am such a big believer in we get dealt the hand that we get dealt, and there's nothing we can do about that. Our environment is outside of our control. So the thing that we can control is how we react to it and what we do with it and how we play those cards. And it can be very difficult to accept the hands that we're dealt sometimes. And sometimes we want to rage against reality, or we want to be in denial about what's happening. And that doesn't bring us peace, and it doesn't help our situation, and we can't help ourselves in our situations when we're doing that.
When you first told me that, what I came to mind was when your sister, you were telling me something that stuck with you that Amanda had told you, where you're don't pray about it being easier, but praying that you have the strength to get through it. And I feel like that kind of goes hand in hand with that quote that you said.
Yes. And I love that.
Yeah.
And Amanda's so wise. And Amanda said that to me for years. Don't pray for things to be easier. Pray to be stronger.
You can't expect, you don't know the outcome, but you don't know what's to come, and the cards that you were dealt and what comes to you. Mm-hmm. It's your reaction to those things.
Yeah. No, I love that. And that really does all tie in together. And we have a lot of stuff happening in life right now that pertains to this. I'm going to have a baby in the next few weeks. Tori is my 2.0, so she's going to be around for all of this change that's going to happen. And then Tori got...
Hence the wine.
Hence why she's drinking today. It's like, do you need a glass of wine? Because I feel like you're gonna... I mean, I would need one. If I could have one, I would also be drinking.
To do this, for sure. Yeah.
And I'm constantly making Tori uncomfortable putting her in situations where I know she can do it, but it's outside of her comfort zone. And Tori recently... Well, I say recently, now it's been a minute, it just feels recently.
Yeah.
Got her real estate license. And so her role has shifted. Mm-hmm. And now there's the opportunity for you to do more uncomfortable things.
Yep.
Don't you love it?
Grow in the uncomfortable, for sure.
There's no growth in the comfortable. So there's a lot of themes in our life that go with that. Mm-hmm. Right now. And I think when I found out I was pregnant towards the beginning of the year, and it was was extremely not on purpose. I think the healthy thing to do is to give yourself room to mourn a situation and say, like, this is not what I wanted, and that's upsetting, and it's okay that it's upsetting. But then to make peace with it and accept it so that you can work with what you have. And that's been like a big part of what I've had to do this year. And it's not the first time this sort of thing, not the pregnancy, but the things happening that are really outside of my control and having to work.
And everybody can like relate to that at some point and apply that to like an experience or experience that's yet to come.
No, it's true. We all have things happen, maybe bigger, smaller, whatever they are, where it's like, I didn't plan for that, wouldn't have planned for that, wouldn't have wanted that, wouldn't have chosen it, can't change it.
Right.
It is what it is. And I think there kind of tend to be two different kinds of people. There's the kind of people that blame their environment for every bad thing that happens, and they just choose to wallow in misery and say, woe is me, and I can't do anything good because this environment is terrible. And then there are the people that accept their environment, good or bad for how it is, but take responsibility for what they can change or what they can affect. And they don't use their environment or their circumstances as an excuse for bad behavior or for apathy or whatever it is. And again, not that it's wrong to be sad or to mourn a situation. That's okay. That's very healthy. And if you don't ever take the time to mourn things that happen that are upsetting, then that's going to come back later in therapy. But rolling with the situation that you have, processing it, and then saying, okay, what do I do from here? What can I do? What do I have control over? Let me not ignore this.
That's something that you're really good at too. It's like, what do you have control over? Like, what can you do now that's going to prepare you for the future? Like, what can you do in the present that's going to take it to the future?
That's a good point. And I might even take it too far sometimes, where it's like the only thing I want to do in that moment is like the
control what you can. Yeah.
What can I control? Then I'm going to deal with that right now, right this second. But it does help to put your hands in the part that you're like, okay, well, this is something that I can deal with. So I'm just going to address it as soon as possible.
And that, like what you were saying, also goes along with like the half cup, half full, half empty. I think more so me, I struggle with the half full.
Sometimes, yeah.
Or no, the half empty, and you're always like half full. Like, this is the card that we've been dealt. Like, what can we do to prepare, or what can we do to control what we can control? And that, I feel like that resonates with that a lot.
No, that makes sense. Tori does sometimes tend to focus on the empty half of the cup.
New Year's resolution.
We're just chipping away at that mentality. We're working on it. But it's a focus thing, I think. And then it's also when you were saying like sometimes we have more of a tendency to focus on one or focus on the other. There are also sometimes situations where we might feel like we're stuck and we're really not. And you can't be cup half full in that situation. And the reason is because you're supposed to do something about the situation. So there are cards that we are dealt that we can do nothing about. Like, that happens where it's like, no, this is
what it is.
This is what it is. You cannot change it. There are unchangeable things. And then there are cards that we're dealt that feel unchangeable or feel like we're stuck. And we're not actually stuck. it's just really hard to get out.
Mm-hmm.
And so we like sit in that situation, in that environment that's causing us, like, we can't get out of the cup half empty. We can't, it's really hard to be content or to deal with the cards that you're dealt when you're staying in an environment that's just sucking the life out of you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I mean, I think a lot of times that pertains to relationships that we're in.
And it goes to like that resonates with like you're carrying everybody, and you can't put their mask on first without putting yours on.
Mm-hmm. Put your own oxygen mask on.
Like you reach a point where it's just too much to carry everybody when you can't even carry yourself.
No, 100%. And as a mother, obviously, that for me, is something I've had to learn.
And sometimes you have to, like as a mother, you have to.
Yeah.
You have to show up for your kids. You have to get ready in the morning and
you have to
go and face the day.
There is no pause button on parenthood. Like, it just happens. But there is a realization, hopefully, for all moms, all parents at some point, where we go, you know what, if I'm not okay, then I can't be okay for my kids. Like, if I'm baseline not okay.
And then you have to think about, what are you teaching your kids in that moment too? Mm-hmm. Like, are you teaching your kids to bury everything that they feel and what they're not okay with? Mm-hmm. Because then they'll do that in their adulthood too.
Yeah. We're creating the patterns that our kids we are following patterns because our parents followed mm-hmm. them and their parents before them. And we're creating the patterns our kids are going to follow. So if we are in an environment or a situation that is toxic, unhealthy, sucking the life out of you, and you just play the martyr role and you just take it and take it, and you're like, well, it would be difficult, it would be hard, it would whatever to make changes, then that is what you're teaching them, mm-hmm. is that it's okay to stay in a role that's not good for you. And then how can you possibly delight in your children and love them to the fullest extent you're capable of when you're not happy, you're not in love with your own life, you're not mm-hmm. good with yourself. You can't be good with other people if you're not good with yourself. And that includes your kids. Mm-hmm. And then I think if you're someone who doesn't have kids, which is one reason why I like the idea of Tori being on the podcast a good bit, is because her life is vastly different from mine.
Completely.
We could not be more opposite. You have me, who is about to have baby number 3, single working mother, businesses, the whole 9 yards. I'm older than Tori is.
Yeah.
And then Tori and her boyfriend bought their first house this year, mm-hmm. and she's a fur baby.
Yep.
Which is great. I too once was a fur mom with no human children, but now they're human children.
And that just goes to show, like, your hardships and what you experience and the life that you've lived this far is a lot different than mine, but there's also things where, like, you can relate to and you can talk about, and, like, I think that's another thing that we're trying to capture here too, mm-hmm. is that, like, there's a space for everybody.
Yeah. And I think women often feel like they have to fit in a certain box, mm-hmm. or that because they think they fit in some box, then their friends have to fit in that box.
Mm-hmm. Like, or we put a timestamp on where we should be and why, mm-hmm. like, we're upset that we're not there. Like, I struggle with that a lot, mm-hmm. personally. It's like, I want to be more, I want to be better, and, like, I'm 25 and I've got to do this, or I've got to accomplish this, or, like, yeah.
Or my friends are doing this stage of life, mm-hmm. and I'm doing this one over here. Comparing ourselves to other people. I always did everything. I think I did most things faster than my peers.
Yeah. I
think I'm out of a marriage faster than most of my peers. Mm-hmm. Don't worry. They'll catch up. Just kidding. just kidding. But I think your personal life situations and your experiences have led you to maybe want things a little differently from what your peers might want. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean anything about your friendship that one person's chosen one path and that you've chosen another. And and Tori can attest, like most of my inner circle people, my favorite people, are nothing like me.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that we can't appreciate each other's priorities and struggles and all that good stuff for what they are, even though they're different.
Yeah.
Very different. We can still lean on each other and learn from each other.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Which is good. And sometimes it's good to have the insight of somebody.
Right.
Who's not in it.
Standing on the outside, looking in.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
And personally, I do have a lot of mom friends, but actually I was just saying to one of my mom friends, who does not live here, so we just chat back and forth on the Polo app, that even though I have a good amount of mom friends, I don't do a good amount of play dates. I don't see them with our kids, and I really like that, because honestly, a play date with the kids is sweet and it's nice and the kids have fun, but it's not good for fostering the friendship between the women, because we're taking care of our kids the whole time.
Yeah, you've got the mom hat on.
Yeah, exactly. So you can't, it's important to connect with people outside of that in just a real way. And if we are going to get real support from people, then you do have to focus on creating friendships that are built on real connection and real conversations.
Yeah.
You can't have those when there's a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old in the room. And honestly, the kind of mom I am, if they want attention or they need something or they want to talk about something, I'm here for it. I'm trying to raise women who feel like their voices deserve to be heard. So they're heard.
And so many parenting styles are so different too, and it just
yeah, and that can get in the way of a friendship too. Is I know a lot of moms, they have play dates, and the play dates maybe don't go super well, and it makes them feel like maybe they can't have a friendship with this other mother. And it's maybe you could have a friendship. It just it doesn't need to revolve around your kids and the way that you parent or the way your kids are or how your kids connect. It should be separate from that.
Do you think that the best advice you could give to a mom is to stay open-minded?
Yeah.
Is that, yeah?
Yeah, I would say open-minded.
Even somebody without kids.
Yeah.
To what they're wanting in their future.
To women in general.
Yeah.
I would say we get raised when we're raised as women. It's funny because I feel like men are not raised like this, but we get to be told. We tend to be told messages on repeat, and some women, and those messages are different depending on who you were raised by and what kind of culture you were raised in. I was raised in a very traditional environment, traditional school, traditional church. At the time, my family was traditional, less so now, but we get told these messages over and over and over, so you think okay, then this is the kind of person I'm supposed to be. This is the kind of life I'm supposed to be living, and my people will also be doing that.
And it's that they haven't reached success because they're not at this stamp that they're supposed to be.
They haven't done this thing.
Yeah.
We have if you've been told you're supposed to be a wife and a mother and you haven't done that yet, you haven't achieved what you're supposed to achieve, and that's not actually. It's an indoctrination of a school of thought, and there isn't a right or way. The wrong way to do things is if you're hurting other people. That's the wrong way to do things. Outside of that, there is no right or wrong way. And traditional roles that we might have been taught to fill are not always healthy roles, and they weren't always taught to us by people who loved being in those roles in the first place. It's just what they knew.
And it's what generations have told them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was raised in Mississippi, the South, very conservative, very traditional. And it's so funny because my parents had split up when I was 3. But it's like every time I go home or to Mississippi, like everybody's like, when are you getting married? When are you having kids?
Jeez.
When is, like, what are you doing in your career? Like, how successful are you? And it's like, you take that and you're like, my time's running out. I'm 25. Like,
I'm so old.
and everybody around you, especially in like that kind of environment, or like following the footsteps of their generations, thinks that you're running out of time.
Mm-hmm.
And
you're not following the path that they thought they should follow, and because it's what they chose, then you should also be choosing it. And why aren't you doing things
and
the way
like
they did it?
In a way, you know, you did everything early on, and like what you created, some of it worked, some of it didn't work. Like a lot of people that take the route that you did don't get out of it, like you said, until later or never. And like you're kind of turning around that corner that you put yourself in.
Well, you can create an entire life, a whole ass life, and realize that there are parts of it that are good and that were worth creating, and there are parts of it that don't work, and it's okay to start over. Which I think is like overarchingly what is the main message of this first podcast that we've just now come to, is it is okay to start something new. It is okay to start something over.
And it's okay for it not to fit the mold that you inspired it to be. Yeah.
It's the life that is right for you, the environment that you need to be in, how you need to play the cards that you are dealt does not have to fit the mold that you have been following. And whatever kind of life you've been pursuing, it is never too late to start something new or start something different or make a change. It might feel that way. It might feel really hard. It is hard. It feels hard because it is.
Yeah.
It's not that it's not hard. It's all hard.
Yeah, it's hard either way. You stay or you go, or you move or you don't, or
it's just choosing.
You grow or you choose not to. It's all hard. It's what's going to make you better in the future. What are you going to learn from? And how are you going to overcome it?
Yeah. And I think something that I've asked myself a lot the last couple of years is, okay, 10 years from now, what choice do I want to have made today? Because there are choices that are easier to make in the moment or tomorrow or next week. Okay, well, today it's easier to make this choice, or it feels less terrible to make this choice. But I'm only in today for today.
Right.
And then I get to go to sleep and I get to
start
again.
And if you wait on that, you're waiting on the cards to tell you. Like, you're waiting on being forced to make a decision where you don't always make the best decisions, or you're not being the best version of yourself because of the way that it came, the way that it was forced to come.
You're not living with intention.
Yes.
At that point.
Yeah.
You're seeing the cards that you're dealt, and you're like, huh, that's interesting. Just gonna ignore that. And like, that hand's not gonna go well for you. You're not playing the hand.
Right.
But I think living each day as much as possible, saying like, what do I want out of this day for the future? So in 10 years when I wake up, am I going to be like, I'm glad I did that then? Or are you going to wake up 10 years from now and be like, wow, I let that whole decade pass and I didn't do anything about these situations, or I just tucked it down or let it fester, and here I am dealing with the same stuff, or not having started something that who knows what it could have been.
Right.
If I had started it a decade ago. I think for me, like, the decade thing is really strong because I turned 30 this year. So then I look back on my 20s and like, how did I spend that decade?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't regret how I spent it.
Yeah.
And I have these two beautiful daughters who are everything. They're incredible, and life is chaotic and beautiful right now. But I think living intentionally is very
And that's
difficult.
a question you have to ask yourself. Are you living with intention, or are you just putting it on cruise through it?
You're just letting it pull you wherever.
Your life isn't a wave. You have to stand your ground and figure out and rechange it and do it over again and make mistakes and reapply it. You change.
And asking yourself what you want.
Yeah.
Which goes back to trying to fulfill expectations that other people put on you. And I think that's a great thing that you do, Tori, is you could be pressuring your boyfriend, Daryl, to give you a ring right now because other people have received diamonds, or there's this pressure and the holidays are coming and holy heck, you're gonna have to
oh my
hear
gosh, we've been together for 8 years. It's well, what's wrong?
What's happening?
Why don't you don't want a wedding? You don't want to get married? No, in time, yes.
Right.
But it's just, it hasn't fit the mold for us lately.
Well, when that's supposed to happen, it should be because it's the time that makes sense for you,
right?
And because it's what you want in that moment.
It's not because of what society tells you.
Right, not because you think you're supposed to have that thing, or you've been told you're supposed to have it right now.
Right.
Instead, what do you want for
And I think
yourself?
that's something that we're good at. It's we don't want it because everybody else is asking about it or because everybody else is getting it. It hasn't came up for us because it's not been meant to be yet. And it's just,
well, and you guys are doing a lot of things of great importance outside of that, building meaningful careers, buying a beautiful house. You are creating this life. That life doesn't need to look like what somebody else thinks it needs to look like. And then sometimes...
And we're doing it, to the south, we're doing it backwards. You're not supposed to buy a house or live with your significant other without being married to them. But, there's just, there's no right way to do this life thing.
No.
If there is a book to it, you shouldn't read that because it's not going to play out that way.
We're humans and we're unique, and what we need and want and our timelines and what we're going to want in those timelines is different. And also when we get too caught up in other people's agendas for our lives, then I think it makes it harder to pivot when something doesn't work. So when you have started down one path and you start to realize, okay, this environment is no good. This is not where I'm supposed to be, or something about where I am sucks the life out of me. It is so hard to change
course.
Yeah, to change course when you have committed to that course for the purpose of the look of it, or the sheer the optics of I have been told I want this thing. This is the life that I've been building. It's the one I need to have in order to look or feel successful. And when those are the reasons behind building something, it makes it much harder to change and evolve as you realize what does or doesn't work.
And then you're putting yourself in disappointment. You're okay, well, once I get here, or once I reach this, it'll be better. Or once you get married or have a ring, your relationship's gonna get better.
Have a baby.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't do that, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
But yeah, I think as humans, we wait for what's to come. We don't change what's to come, and that's something that you have to do yourself. Take control over.
Absolutely. And not stay in a situation for the wrong reasons, or be in a situation for the wrong reasons And when there might be a life that you were building that worked for a certain amount of time,
and
it's okay to change course.
And there's gonna be seasons where it's just seasons where it made sense at the time, or you were happy at the time, or it worked for what it was in the moment. But you've grown from that, or you're past that, or you just don't want to bear it anymore, and it's okay to want something new or want something else, or change course. And that the season thing also goes, like, something could be really hard in a season, like,
and that's okay.
It's okay to mourn it, but you have to prepare for the next season or what you're wanting out of it.
Yep. Yeah, no, 100%. Just because something's hard doesn't mean it's wrong. That's not the part that's wrong.
Yeah.
And like knowing what you're going to do with that hard, and like, is this the hard that I'm choosing? And how am I going to deal with it? What is the plan? And I think a lot of times there are these cycles that we get stuck in, especially as women, where we do think we're supposed to just bury something or bear something infinitely, and that's not it. So in a hard season, which we're gonna have, life is hard, life is challenging, that's just part of it. That's normal.
Right.
If you feel like it's hard, it's because it is. It's very hard. But in that, looking ahead to the future and finding beauty in the hard, which I think something I've said a lot this year and last year, is looking for the collateral beauty in the challenge.
I knew you were going to say that.
Like, I know what's coming next. I've heard this speech before. But it's in hardship and in difficult situations, there is beauty and love that comes out of those situations that there would not have been an opportunity to experience if it hadn't been for that hardship. So the hardship in itself is not evil. It's becoming apathetic about your life and not doing anything about your situation, not accepting your situation for what it is and playing the hand that you're dealt. That's not good, and you are hurting yourself. But there are so many ways to find the beautiful in the difficulty, and for us to be able to love on each other when there's struggle, because we don't need each other so much when things are great.
Good. Yeah. And you find your people in the struggle. I mean,
oh, totally.
It becomes more clear when you're going through something, who's there and who's not. And
when you start to go through something hard, your friends show up or don't show up in certain ways, and you realize.
And that's where you have to live with intention. Like, what is this person bringing to the table? What is this person bringing to your friendship? What is this person taking away? Like, you've got enough going on, and you're trying to get yourself through that, and like the people that are with you and encourage you, like, that's what you need right there. And that's another thing, like, there's some people that come into your life that are there for the season, or they are the season. Like, but it doesn't mean that they have to stay or go. It's just, it is what it is. And
and the people in your life are part of that environment. So if something's not working about your environment, it could be the people that you're allowing to be in your inner circle. And that can be sad, and it can be hard. There can be people that you were really close with for a time, and then it turns out that they're not forever kind of friends, or not inner circle forever kind of friends. And living with intention and applying it to friendship and saying, like, it is okay for me to spend quality time with myself. I don't always have to fill it with somebody else's presence. And if I am going to take my valuable, precious time that is very limited and spend it with somebody else, it's going to be someone who should be in that circle, in that moment. And I think, the harder your life is, the more you have to live that way.
Right.
which
the busier,
the busier, the fuller,
the
more you have to edit who those friends are. That's probably been one benefit for me in the way I've chosen to live my life in the last decade is my inner circle. Like, I know a lot of people, and I love and care for a lot of people, but
and at the end of the day, you only have so much energy that you can give.
You only have so much to give, and so you can't be giving it out in places. You can't be pouring it out in places where it's not being caught or it's not being poured back.
It's not being nurtured.
And there are people who would like to be your friend, but they're not going to be a friend to you. They would like you to be a friend to them, but they don't want to be a part of a symbiotic relationship. And friendships have to be. Kids are parasitic. Our children are they're parasites. Our dogs are parasites. I mean that in the most loving way. They are my favorite people on the planet. But it's my love with them, they do pour back into me because I find all this joy in them. They're not doing it intentionally. They can't go shop for my birthday. They can't. They give back so much love, but really the relationship with them is meant to be, I am to love them in a way that can be one-sided. So even when they're teenagers and they're total assholes, my love for them will not change because that is the nature of that relationship. But friendships with other adults should not be that way.
Even relationships.
Yeah, or relationships
shouldn't be that way.
Absolutely. That's not your child.
Yeah.
You're not required to unconditionally love another adult person. When we're all grown-ups doing things together, we're going to have times where one person's struggling and can't give as much as another.
Right.
But your friendships, your relationships, whether they be romantic or just the completely opposite end of the spectrum, whatever the relationship looks like, that friendship needs to be symbiotic, and there has to be give and take, and there has to be love that flows both ways, always. Or you're accepting an environment that is going to suck the life out of you. And you can't start new and you can't start fresh when you're doing stuff like that. I have really enjoyed doing this, Tori, and I think you did just fine. I feel like this was a good topic for the first podcast. The podcast is something new. It's something that
unknown waters.
Unknown waters. We're just gonna tackle this and see how it goes. It's something that Tori came into the house the other day and was like, I think you could do something like this and it would be good. And it actually has been I've been on podcasts before and I've done them, but I didn't have one that was my podcast.
Right.
Or the material that I would have chosen.
Right.
Or it was they've all been very business related.
Exactly.
Which I'm all about, but that's not really the point of this podcast.
Yeah.
The point of this podcast is to just create genuine connection and create a space for people to feel like, it's going to be mostly women. Those are my people. Talking about real stuff and sharing real life things, and hopefully...
And that involves work and failures and success and personal, and it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah, it encompasses a lifestyle and what kind of life do we want to be living, and how do we curate our lives to be the right fit for us, and what I want and what you want and what's right for one person or another is going to be different. So it's not about, you need to be chasing this certain hustle or this kind of relationship or whatever it is. It's more about chasing yourself and the life that we learn along the way is the one that we want to be building. So with the first podcast and starting something new, we talk about starting something new, and how it can be hard, it can feel daunting. You just do it. You just bite the bullet. You just do the thing.
And then something else that like resonate with that is when Hannah Pennell said that, I think it was Daniel actually told her that if it's something you don't want to do or you've been putting off about doing, it's like count to 5
and
then do it. And like that's something that's really stuck with me, like because I more recently are more uncomfortable putting myself out there, and Kat forces me to be uncomfortable a lot. But it's like count to 5 and do it. Like that, start there.
Yeah, no, I really like that. And it is just like a bite the bullet. Yeah, count to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Make the phone call. Hit record. Start talking. Whatever it is. Write the note.
Drink a glass of wine.
Drink a glass of wine to get her through the first podcast. Which there will be, I will have wine one day in the future when I'm not pregnant. I will also drink wine while recording a podcast. That sounds lovely. Today it's tea and water.
But yeah, we our intention with the podcast is we want to be your friend. We want you to listen to us when you're getting ready, or you're driving home, or if you've had a hard day, or you've had a really good day. I mean, this is a for women.
Yeah, and in those moments where you feel like it would be really great to have a girlfriend here right now, just chatting. We want to feel like those girlfriends that are sitting with you, which is why these conversations are like us sitting as friends talking about meaningful, real things that we connect very deeply on, and hopefully sharing them with other people will help those people feel connected as well. And I know I've had so many moments, especially I think back to like 2020 when we were all in lockdown, where I was like, gosh, I wish there was like something that I felt connected to that made me feel like I had girlfriends in the room, because I didn't. And so I would like FaceTime my sister for, an hour and a half at a time and that kind of thing. But definitely I think we want to feel like the people that might be sitting in your bathroom with you while you're doing your makeup.
Right.
Or having a cup of coffee with you in the morning. That kind of thing. So let us in and be a part of what you're doing.
And bear with us as we're learning.
We're learning. The quality should get better on this because, I ordered a microphone. It's not supposed to come for a few weeks. So that's something. You did that. Okay. I did. I ordered one. They just apparently doesn't matter. You can't get a high quality microphone immediately from Amazon. Not the little ones that we need. We're not trying to do anything crazy here. So the quality should improve, and we'll let this evolve and be what it wants to be. So definitely reach out and let us know if there's something that you wish had been different, or
or a topic that you would like to hear from.
Things you want to hear about, things you want to talk about or feel like you're talking with your girlfriends about. Or if you disagree, reach out, let us know. We'll bring it up on another podcast that someone had an opposing point of view and this is how they felt, and we can talk about it. That's part of having genuine conversation. So I really appreciate anyone who chooses to listen and chooses to be a part of it, and I appreciate Tori for participating, even though I did not make it optional or negotiable.
Yeah. That's what she tells her girls too.
That's what I tell my daughters. This is non-negotiable. And it was, which is why we gave her wine, because it really doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. But I appreciate you sitting here and talking with me about these things that I know have meaning for you. Definitely have meaning for me, but I think it's nice to have another voice in the room and another set of thoughts. So it's not just me. Not that I would never do a monologue
And we're doing
style.
what we're talking about. It's being vulnerable and
trying to be real about
This is authentic
this
as it
life
gets.
thing. This is my living room.
Yep.
This is my cheap couch with my couple pillows, because the third pillow got sold to the people who bought my condo. This is it. This is the living room. And there will be, we're recording on video, but then we're going to take the audio out for the podcast. So the intention is to put it on YouTube and have the video there, but have the audio for the podcast. And I really think that you're going to see us in a different environment every week. Within a few weeks, there will be a baby here, and so it'll probably be like in my bed with one of my boobs out. Like that's where we're going to be. It's just going to be real. Or like Tori was not warned she was going to be on camera, which like that statement's a little debatable if she knew or didn't know. She didn't know.
I didn't know.
She genuinely did not believe that she was going to be on the podcast.
Came to work in sweats today.
Yeah. So she was like,
are.
this is very real Tori, unprepared. The real version of me is coming. The postpartum, unslept, unwashed. She'll show up here. She's real cute. I really like her. So that's where we're at with that. It's trying to keep it authentic and fun and real. So definitely want to hear from people and what they want to hear.
And if you take anything away from this today, it's just, live with intention. I think that's what we were really getting at with this one.
Yeah, so. 100%. Live intentionally, embrace your situation, and ask yourself, how should I be playing these cards? Is there something I should be starting today that's just hard? And I just need to do it. Thanks.